What's up, nerds? Ever heard of Super Mario Bros. 3? It's this really unique, underrated gem on the NES where you play as a plumber named Mario. It's pretty weird and pretty quirky. I guess they made 3 of them. But anyway, it does this really neat thing with its final boss, where instead of using Mario's jump ability to defeat this guy Bowser here, you actually have to use Bowser's jump ability to defeat Bowser. And bingo bango bongo, you're done, you beat the game, good for you. And this twist, as small as it is, does go a long way to establishing Bowser's fight as memorable and unique when, well, at least when compared to the previous 7. They could have just made him take more hits, shoot more flames, or, you know, anything that would have made the fight more difficult in a straightforward sense, but they didn't, and instead chose to recontextualize the mechanics. So let's focus in on that word, recontextualize. Up until the final boss, the gameplay has been very straightforward. 1. If you don't have a power-up or item, you jump on things to kill them. 2. If jumping on something will hurt you, then you leave it alone. A pair of simple and largely unspoken rules. However, in this case, unlike all the previous boss fights, rule number 2 just doesn't work anymore. You can't just ignore him. Like, it's the final boss. You're locked in a room. You have to beat him somehow. So in the meantime, you just keep dodging his attacks for long enough until you catch on to the fact that his jumps break away at the bricks beneath him. And the different colored bricks seem to imply that something may happen if you let Bowser dig a deep enough hole. And this right here, I like this. This is very good. Really, you know, jams my jelly. Really dills my pickle. It doesn't present you with a new mechanic and force you to learn on the spot, but rather offers up a tiny puzzle that requires Mario to use his jumps to evade instead of attack. And by strategically evading, you can ultimately get Bowser to dig his own grave. Like, it's still an encounter that tests your platforming skills, but it forces you to be indirect in the way you confront an enemy. By recontextualizing the mechanic of jumping, you're testing more than the player's reaction times. It's actually expanding on the game's established mechanics. This is the kind of boss fight that I love to see, because it reduces the chance of a fight feeling cheap. This is ideal, in my book. But I'm also aware that, you know, this comes down to personal taste, and it would be unreasonable for me to claim that my personal rule of thumb for a subjective medium is some sort of objective measure of quality. And as we all know, that would be silly. Cuphead doesn't follow this rule, and Hollow Knight doesn't either, and, you know, I never shut up about them. But then you have rhythm games. I love them. Can't get enough. But their boss fights play like ass. I'm always left with the impression that they are included more so out of obligation because, like, hey, it's a video game. Video games need boss fights, rather than any sort of, like, artistic intention. Oh man, it's the last level of a world, better make it a boss. Like, you don't need to. I'm fine with an extra hard level. Like, I'd argue quite a few rhythm games that claim to have bosses don't even really have them. Like, they have cinematic, I guess, scripted encounters that imply danger. Sure, but like they're effectively the same thing as a reskin of a regular level with a few more bells and whistles that make it seem like you're doing more than you usually do, but like fundamentally you're not. So some examples to kind of illustrate what I'm talking about. This isn't 100% representative, obviously, but these are the ones that stand out to me. Guitar Hero, where you do what you've been doing the whole game, but with a fight scene in the background. DDR, where you do what you've been doing the whole game, but like do it better than the AI. And Thumper, where you again, do what you've been doing the whole game, but just like do it more perfect because reasons. And I get it, like putting a visual template over your level to make it seem a little bit more exciting, that's not fundamentally changing how the game plays. You can still get a perfect score. I'm not complaining about that. I'm just saying that like they can do better, and I know this because I've seen it done better. So Bit.TRIP, Future Runner 2 Legend, Rhythm 2 Alien, those, okay, that's not the title. Those are the words in the title. It's on screen, fuck. But I'm not here to provide a comprehensive yet accessible analysis for a beloved video game. I'm no Liam Triforce after all. See, I'm here to explain why these 5 boss stages are pretty neat. Yeah, that's it. The core of the Bit.TRIP Runner series couldn't be more obvious. Keep on running until you reach the end of the stage. And that's going to involve a lot of items and obstacles conveniently spaced at intervals on beat with the soundtrack. Now in Runner 2, your moveset consists of jumping, sliding, attacking, and blocking. It's a whole song and dance. You can also dance. This is the bulk of the gameplay, and it steadily ramps up with context-sensitive obstacles such as loops, springs, and pipes. But the core of the game is easily understood by anyone watching for more than 10 seconds. Now, it could have easily done what Runner 1 or even Runner 3 did with their bosses, which is either make a regular level with big enemies in the background, or make a completely unrelated minigame with no rhythm elements. But Runner 2 is too good for this world. It's too good for me, it's too good for you. And it does that thing that I just won't shut up about. Recontextualizing. World 1, Stratosphere. As the boss of the first world, we're not dealing with anything too crazy so far. It's still all about jumping and ducking, but instead of a neutral standard screen position of about here for your character, The level has pushed us up uncomfortably close to the edge of the opposite side of the screen, and now the danger is coming from behind the player rather than in front of them. We've already encountered flying projectiles so far, but now the timing is a little bit weird. We're used to faster obstacles in this since you're usually running at them head on, so you're liable to mess up out of habit now that you're running away from them. It's a very simple change, but it's an effective twist. Keep this in mind for later. World 2, Drown Town. The face-off here is probably the most similar to a regular stage, but it is unique among the boss fights for taking place entirely on the recently introduced pipe grinding mechanic. Jumping and crouching just don't work the same way here, so the player has to use their recently acquired pipe grinding mechanics and adapt them to the obstacles being fired from the background, rather than obstacles moving with the stage. World 3, Timber's Timber. At first glance, this level shakes things up on a purely visual level and not so much on a mechanical one, but I'm going to make the case here that a change in camera perspective is fundamentally going to change the way the player reacts to visual stimuli. The new angle gives a better look at upcoming obstacles than before, which is necessary to counteract the fact that the log you're on is, getting sliced apart in real time, which adds a layer of unpredictability that is just not present in other stages. Horton here is a suicide. It doesn't sound like any of the other stage names, which is perfect because it doesn't play like any other stage either. The first thing you'll notice is that you're claustrophobically close to a tube that will soon be ejecting enemies at you, so things are looking pretty dire. The key here is the transparent piece of tubing above you, giving you the chance to memorize the upcoming sets of obstacles. Kind of like a delayed reaction sort of thing. Combine this with the steady rhythm of the soundtrack and you're handling sets of obstacles no one should reasonably be able to react to. A super neat twist on the game's formula, and we're not even at the best one yet. World 5, Flight to Fate. There's really no reason this level should work as well as it does, but it just does. So offensively simple that you'd laugh if someone tried to spoil it for you. You run left. That's it. You run left. You've always been running towards a goal, but guess what? Now you don't know where you're running. A symbolic and mechanical subversion that mirrors the very first boss stage, but instead of the projectile switching directions, it's now you, the player. Unless you've been playing this game for like 20 hours or more, you won't be able to imagine how this seemingly innocuous change just completely destroys your flow, just decimates you, like you're done. The references to the past titles are a really neat touch and, ties in with the whole running in the opposite direction gimmick. This boss is a flex on the entire rhythm game genre. It's iconic, you should play it. I don't have anything else to say. Maybe just have a good day. You don't have to if you don't want to. No pressure.